What's up guys? Today is an exciting day for me. I finally get to test out this one product I got a month ago. Because I've been on trips and holidays, I've only just found time to film. And it is, of course, the Canon AE-1. It's a 35mm film camera. And the reason why I got this is because I wanted to improve my skills. I have terrible photography habits. One of them is overshooting. I'm mainly a portrait shooter, and for one scene I could take 50 pictures and only select 2 or 3, maybe even 1, so I overshoot so much. Another bad habit of mine is that with a 26 megapixel sensor, which I'm filming with, I have a habit of not composing for my pictures properly and then cropping in later and straightening it. So with a film camera, because you only get 36 shots, everything's going to be right, because every shot costs money. And I'm hoping this will help me improve my skills. So let's get to it. So let's talk about the history of the AE-1. The AE-1 was introduced in 1976, and 5 years later Canon revised it with an AE-1 program, and this line lasted till 1984. During the 1970s and 1980s, it was considered the golden age of SLRs, but Nikon was king. They were the market leaders. Anyone else remaining was just battling for the remaining market share. That included Canon, Pentax, Minolta and Olympus. Canon targeted a different market. They targeted the beginners and the amateurs. They put the first processing unit in a camera that allowed shutter speed priority. This meant that people can shoot by just selecting the shutter speed and not have to worry about the aperture, and essentially they just gave the world a point and shoot SLR. The shutter speed priority is a strange approach because most people, including myself, still shoot in aperture priority. But 5 years later, with the AE-1 program, they put a program mode. So by doing this, Canon tapped into a market where beginners can simply pick up this camera and shoot without any photography skills. The AE-1 was mainly made with plastic components because Canon wanted to lower the cost. However, this doesn't feel plastic. Canon went to great lengths to make this feel premium, and you can really feel it. It feels solid, and it feels it does kind of feel like metal if you didn't know it was made from plastic. This was used as a technique to cut costs down for Canon, and the release price of the AE-1 was $300 USD, which is about 200 cheaper than the competitors. This was a cost-cutting technique that Canon adopted that essentially brought this camera to $300 USD at its release date. Calculating with inflation in today's money, that would equate to 1,300 USD, which is pretty cheap for what it is at the time. This was so successful that many other companies started copying Canon and had their own autonomous mode. So let's talk about my experience in using this camera. At first, when you pick this up, you will notice straight away the weight. This camera with the lens is around 750 grams, which is far heavier than any modern cameras that are around this size. I think my Fujifilm is only around 400 grams, so it's something to get used to. When I first picked this up, the first thing that confused me was the light meter. The light meter isn't your typical light meter that tells you how many stops you're over and under. It tells you what aperture it thinks you should be in. At first I had to do some research to find out that it was actually an aperture readout. So this is my first time shooting film, and I didn't know the ASA, which stands for American Standard Association, now renamed ISO, is always determined by the film. So at the moment I'm shooting a 100 film, which means throughout the whole of these pictures it's going to be ISO 100. ISO is something you can't control unless you want to push up all the film. That was something new to me, and it's something less to worry about, whereas modern cameras you have to set the ISO. I've never shot with a DSLR before, so manually focusing on this was a new experience for me. It is really easy, especially with the bright viewfinder that you have in this. Because I didn't know anything about film cameras when I bought this, I bought the Fujifilm Provia 100F, and it turns out that is a slide film which is quite difficult to shoot with compared to color negative. You have to get the exposure right on the dot, and it's mainly for professionals, so I kind of selected the wrong film, but the reason why I selected it was because it's the same profile as the Fujifilm's own standard profile, which is also the Provia. So I want to do a comparison of the difference between film and a digital camera. So I'm going to do some comparison between film taken by the Canon and the digital camera with the Provia setting on the X-T3. Let's talk about the pros and cons and if I recommend this Canon AE-1. Now I got this for £70 on eBay, which is actually really cheap. They're going for around 60 to 110 depending on condition. You can even go pricier if you go for mint condition. And over 1 million was sold, so they're easy to come by. The pros of having a film camera is that it will help you develop better photography skills. As I talked about earlier, every shot costs you money, so you've got to make every shot count. When you get a film camera, you'll see the characteristics of the film itself, and that is something unique that you can't get from a digital camera. If you get the Canon AE-1, it comes with an FD mount, which is now discontinued, so the lenses are quite cheap. And further down the line, you can try out different lenses. The AE-1 has one of the best viewfinders in the A line of the Canon cameras. It is bright and it is easy to focus, so that's one of the advantages of having this camera. During the 70s and 80s, most cameras were still using mercury battery, which is now banned. The AE-1 uses a standard LR44 6-volt, which you can still get. So that's one of the benefits of having one of these cameras. Now let's talk about the cons of having this camera. This is an old relic. It is made from the 1970s, especially my one. Mine was actually one of the first year models, so it's a 1976 model. They do have some issues, especially with certain things like the light seals, where they are literally melting away. So when you buy it, make sure someone said that the light seals are intact. Otherwise you'll be replacing it yourself, which is a simple job, but it's just a hassle. Another issue may be the light meter. Some of them could be out of sync, meaning when it tells you the aperture you're supposed to be shooting at, it could be the wrong aperture, so it could be underexposed or overexposed. What I suggest is to download a light meter app. These are very accurate, and I've tried it and tested it with my camera as well, and it gives a correct. And I've actually checked my Canon. The guy said that the light meter was working. He didn't say if it was accurate or not, so I had to double check with my meter app, and it is working. One thing I did try to avoid was the 1/1000th of a second shutter speed, because these shutters were made out of cloth, and over time they lose their speed, meaning your shots would have the completely wrong exposure. One more issue with the Canon AE-1 is the battery door. These tend to break very easily, so you've got to be very careful when you open these. The spring will break and you'll have to sellotape it to keep it down. So, do I recommend the Canon AE-1? Only if you're interested in collecting an iconic camera from Canon. Otherwise, I would stick to a mechanical camera, because the AE-1 only operates with a battery, and during this time there are plenty of mechanical cameras that can operate without a battery. But do I recommend a film camera? Yes, if you want to improve your photography skills and also to get those unique shots from using a film camera. So there we have it. I've actually brought my next camera, which is all mechanical. Have a guess what that is not the Pentax K1000. So if you like this video, tap that thumbs up. If you dislike it, double tap the thumbs down. And I'll see you in the next one.